Hello, Assalamu alaikum. It's 9 p.m. I think we should start now. Um, so I'm Dr. Zarmeen Shahid, and I am here with Dr. Zara Teki to conduct a session about OET writing. This is gonna be part one, and we are here to cover about some assessment criteria that the examiners use to check your letters, which is the writing part of the OET. So let's continue. So the assessment criteria that examiners use to check your letters contains actually 7 parts. It's the purpose, the content, the conciseness and clarity, genre and style, organization and layout, and language. So we are going to be covering only 6 parts. Part of these will be covered by me, and then the last 2 parts will be covered by Zara. The language part we are going to be covering in our next session because that's a very big and very important part of this criteria. It includes the grammar, and most of the mistakes that happens in the letter happens in that part, the grammar part. So we are going to be covering it in our next session. So first criteria is the purpose. So what exactly the purpose is? It is not just enough to write the apparent purpose. Expanding it on in your opening, later in your letter as well, with the relevant information is essential to get a strong score in purpose. And for purpose, so I forgot to tell you guys that for purpose you have to score if you are achieving for a band B minimum, the grade B minimum, you have to score. There are proper scores for these criteria. You have to score or at least 2 out of 3 in purpose. That's 3 total marks for the purpose, and for the rest of these criteria there are 7 total marks, and you have to score 5 out of 7 in the rest of these. 2 out of 3 in purpose, and 5 out of 7 for the rest of these criteria. So the purpose, it is not just, as I told you, it is what needs to be made clear, and then later on expanding on it with the right details. This is actually the purpose, the thing that actually makes the introductory or the first paragraph of your letter. This will later on be explained with a little exercise in the later part of this session as well. So part one, what needs to be made clear? The purpose, it's the reason for writing or why you are writing the letter. It actually in most cases, the writing task is the best way to understand what is the purpose of your letter. However, if the writing task doesn't have the information you need, you do not have to panic. You should be able to find the rest of the information in the final section of the case notes. And then finally, if you have found the purpose in the writing task or the case notes, how to show that purpose at the start of your letter, that is actually the introductory part of your letter. So, for example, this is a writing task. I have taken this, this is the third sample test in the official OET site. This writing task says, using the information in the case notes, write a letter to Miss Graham, an occupational therapist, detailing Mr. Jones' situation and requesting an assessment of his workplace. Now, the part that I've highlighted, the detailing Mr. Jones' situation and requesting an assessment of his workplace, is actually the purpose of your letter. We are writing to Miss Graham, and we are requesting an assessment of workplace of Mr. Jones. And not just that, we are also explaining his situation as well, which situation he is in. We are going to discuss about it later on as well. So this was the example of the part 1, finding the purpose in the writing task. If you are not able to do so in the writing task, you can find the purpose in the case notes. For example, let's move on to the next example. The writing task here says, using the information given in the case notes, write a letter to the community health nurse in Centerville outlining the patient's history and requesting ongoing monitoring. Outlining the patient's history, ongoing monitoring. Address the letter to the community health nurse, Eastern Community Health Center, 456 East Street, Centerville. Now, we are not entirely sure what the purpose of this letter is. Just says you have to outline the patient's history and requesting ongoing monitoring. It's not complete. So then the last line of this is the part that I've highlighted. It's from the last line of the case notes. Letter to transfer the patient to the care of the community health nurse in Centerville. That means it's the purpose. It's not just to outline the patient's history and requesting ongoing monitoring. We are transferring the patient to the care of the community health nurse. I hope that's clear. You usually can find the purpose of the letter, if not in the writing task, in the last part of your case notes. So then if you have found the purpose, how to show that purpose at the start of your letter? These are just few examples. The first one is from the case note that I mentioned earlier, this one. Detailing Mr. Jones' situation and requesting an assessment of his workplace. How to show that you have found the correct purpose of the letter. Now, I am writing to request a workplace assessment of the above patient, Mr. Jones. He is a forklift driver but has been off work for 3 months after he injured his back at work, trying to move a heavy box off the floor. Now, the first thing is just giving out what I'm writing. And then the second thing is expanding on that. I'm going to be explaining it in a bit more detail in the next section as well. Let's move on to the next example. Thank you for seeing Mrs. Priya Sharma, a type 2 diabetic, for further management of her blood sugar levels. Now, not most of the candidates start their letter, I'm writing to refer this patient, I'm writing to request this, etc. But not all the case notes or all the purpose can be explained in that type of situation. For example, in the third example, Mr. Spencer has been a patient at this hospital for the past 5 weeks and will be discharged tomorrow. He requires your ongoing support and treatment during his rehabilitation. Now, the expanding part is given first, and then he explained why I am telling you that for the past 5 weeks he has been in the hospital and will be discharged tomorrow. Then the last thing, thank you for accepting Mr. Dunbar into your care for the regular monitoring of his diabetes and encouragement to comply with his medication and dietary regimes. So I hope that this is clear. Now, when you're writing the purpose of your letter in the first introductory part, there are certain verbs that you can use that will clarify that this is the introductory part and that you know what exactly your purpose is, and you have correctly identified it. For example, it also depends on the type of letter as well. Example of these verbs include transfer, discharge, update, see, accept, request, provide, and recommend. So for example, you are transferring a patient from one hospital to another, or care of a GP to another doctor, or if, for example, into a care home, then you will use I'm writing to transfer this patient. For example, you are discharging a patient. You will mention that verb so that you have made it very, very clear why you are writing it. For example, if you are requesting a specialist advice about something, you're gonna say that exact word. I'm requesting you a specialist advice on her diabetic control. You're not gonna say that I would like her diabetic control is not good, I am sending you to her care. It's not appropriate. I'm sending her to your care. Sorry. So at this point, we know that we have to write a purpose in first line, or the introductory part will include the purpose, and then we have to expand on that purpose, explain it in a bit detail, in very small detail actually. Now, this is what how you expand on your purpose. For example, the first case note that I told you about, it's a bit like that, the first example. When you have told that he is going to be needing a physio, for example, you have told that he is going to be needing a physiotherapist, or if you are talking to an occupational therapist, you are providing a bit detail on his background. Mr. Jones has been seeing a physiotherapist for past 3 months. He currently walks for 30 minutes per day, although he reports that this is quite tiring. This is a bit detail into his past, immediate past. Not very much detail that's going to be in the history part of the letter. So next example is her non-fasting blood sugars are 7 to 8 millimole per liter, but her fasting blood sugar levels are usually in the 16 plus range, which is high. Therefore, I am referring her to you for your specialist advice. Now, the first part is the expanding part, and then he's saying that therefore, I am referring her to you for your specialist advice. Same are the third and fourth examples. So what we learn from these examples is that not all introductory paragraphs are going to be the same. They're going to be different, and you have to cater to the situation individually. So in summary, the purpose has to be immediately apparent, and it has to be sufficiently expanding. Why you're writing the letter, why should the letter be read, and does the letter start with a clear explanation as to why you are writing the letter again? And then will the reader understand the situation by reading the first part of your letter? Are your requests obvious to find what you are asking the reader to do? And does the letter provide more detail than your opening explanation? So the next thing is the content. Content, it covers what you put into your letter and how you refer to the case notes. Now, which content to use and how to accurately represent that content that you have chosen to use. Whether the letter, actually I forgot to tell you, whether the letter is a referral, discharge, or any other type of letter, you need to be sure that its content provides all the information they need about the patient. It can be found all in the case notes. However, not all the case notes will be relevant to the letter. They will have extra information, and you will have to decide what information the reader needs and while accurately representing that case notes in the content form. Okay, so how to choose which content to use? When reading through the case notes, you should keep these questions in mind. Is there any existing professional relationship between the patient and the reader? What aspect of the patient's care will the reader be involved with? So the first question you'll be asking, why will there be an existing professional relationship? That happens when the letter is to a patient's GP. It's a general physician, and usually everyone in the UK has a general physician, and they have their entire history starting from the birth. So when this is usually in the case when a specialist doctor is writing a letter to the GP updating about the patient's situation. And then what aspect of the patient's care will the reader be involved? For example, if we are writing to an endocrinologist about a patient's diabetes mellitus, we do not have to tell him that he had diarrhea like almost 10 to 15 years back. That's what it actually means. So for example, a hospital occupational therapist writes a letter discharging patient Jack Spencer to the occupational therapist at the care center where he will receive rehabilitation. So in this situation, the reader and the patient do not have an existing professional relationship. So the letter will need to include the information about the patient's current abilities and inabilities for the reader to get a clear understanding. Although the case notes may provide in much more detail about the patient's children, grandchildren, his jobs, whether he's retired or not, his financial status, these details will not be needed. And therefore, they are irrelevant and they will not impact the care that the occupational therapist will be providing. The second example here is the hospital occupational therapist was writing a letter to the patient's regular GP to update them on their progress. Now, the patient has already has a relationship with his GP, as I have explained to you. Now, while the patient's social history is still not necessary, but you have to provide details about his current abilities and inabilities, but that should be altered as well. The letter would need to provide an update about how these have changed. The GP may already have an idea about the patient's abilities and inabilities, but you have to tell him about any update that has happened since the patient has seen the GP. You have to tell him about any new information. Now you know that what content to use and how we'll discuss how to accurately represent it. Okay. So this is the second key part of the content, accurately representing the case notes. Summaries or paraphrase parts of the case notes you think are relevant and important to the reader. However, it's important to represent the case notes accurately by not changing the meaning of the information. Paraphrasing means you have to change the words, for example, using the synonyms of the words, but not changing the facts. During paraphrasing, you can affect accuracy by not matching the exact meaning of the words in the case notes with another word and altering the time frame of the situation by changing the tense used. Using the correct tense is very, very important, and this will be discussed in the second session because that's where we are discussing about the grammar and the tenses and all that. So here are two examples. Case notes say patient is moving to Centerville to live with daughter and her husband. And the letter says Mr. Dunbar is relocating to Centerville to be nearer his daughter and son-in-law. That's actually inaccurate. He is going to be living with his daughter, not near his daughter. And the second case note says atorvastatin 20 milligram 1 main added glipizide 5 milligram 2 main. And the letter says glipizide 5 milligram taken every morning will be added to the atorvastatin 20 milligram also taken in the morning. It will not be added. That implies when we are using will be, it implies that it's going to be added in the future. We are adding the patient, we are adding that today. It's going to start from today. So tenses make a lot of difference and can affect accuracy. And this is one of the major parts where people make mistakes and their marks can get deducted. So always finish your letter with a few minutes to spare where you can read your letter again. Have enough time at the end to read through your letter as the reader and ask the following questions to yourself while you're reading. How would the reader feel at the end? Will the reader know what they need to do to continue the care? Do they have the right information to action this? Are the facts correct? Have you represented the information using accurate grammar and vocabulary? In case you have answered yes to all these questions, these 5 questions, then you are well on your way to scoring high on content. Okay, so that's the second criteria, and moving on to the third one, the conciseness and clarity. Conciseness and clarity is the third one, and it looks at three key areas. Whether you have included, whether you have not included unnecessary information, how clearly you have summarized the case notes, and how clearly this summary is communicated to the reader. Now, I know you must be thinking, how is this different from content? Think of content and conciseness and clarity together. Many of the skills and strategies and questions you apply in both these areas are quite similar. Content is the criteria that assesses the information that you have to include in your letter, while on the other hand, conciseness and clarity assesses the information you have to omit from your letter. So when it comes to deciding what is and what isn't relevant, test takers tend to make three mistakes: including information to the reader they already know, or outside the scope of the patient's care. For example, when you're writing a letter to the GP, he must already know how many children he has. Even if it is relevant or irrelevant, you do not have to include how many children does the patient have. Second one is providing too much background or historical details to the current situation. For example, as I have given you this example before, talking about an episode of acute enteritis that happened years ago. And then not grouping, third one is not grouping similar information together. For example, during the case notes, you notice that the patient is having multiple episodes of repeated falls that are resulting in fractures. They are happening randomly, but have been discussed again and again, have been mentioned again and again. You have, if you find this relevant, you have to group them together, saying that the patient is having repeated falls resulting in fractures every time. Now, these are the case notes for the writing task that I mentioned earlier. Let's read the writing task first. Using the information in the case notes, write a letter to Ms. Graham, an occupational therapist, detailing Mr. Jones' situation and requesting an assessment of his workplace. Now we are talking to an occupational therapist. So let's see the first highlighted part, 1988, appendix removed. Do you think that this detail is necessary for an occupational therapist, that the patient got his appendix removed in 1988? That's irrelevant. He got married, and he's married to Susan Jones, and he has 3 children. This is irrelevant again. It's not going to affect the care the occupational therapist is going to provide to Mr. Jones. Then his current medication is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or muscle relaxant that blocks pain. Occupational therapist is supposed to look at his workplace and make necessary arrangements. He doesn't need to know about his current medication. Then again, these two visits on 28th June 2019 and 29th July 2019, the occupational therapist, Ms. Graham, doesn't need to, sorry, it's a she doesn't need to know about the details of these 2 visits. She just need to know the details of his most recent visit that happened in 30th August 2019. So you have to identify which information to remove from your content. I hope that this is clear. Now the fourth one, the fourth criteria is genre and style. In the healthcare industry, the type of letters you tend to write is formal, and in the UK it's formal, and OET examiners are asking you to write in this style, the formal writing, and using the right register. That means the level of formality and the tone for your reader, and how your grammar can help you to sound formal. That's actually quite important as well. So let's see what formal writing is. Formal writing is polite, it's respectful, and it's non-judgmental. You show this in the language you use to make requests for the reader, and how you present information to the reader, and how you present information about the patient. For example, it's informal to say, "Thank you for having a look at Jane." You have to use words like, "Thank you for seeing Mrs. Jane Smith." Either use her full name or Mrs. Smith. It's formal to use the second name, and all whenever this is going to be discussed in the later part as well. Zara is going to tell you how to use Miss, Mr., Mrs., etc. And this is always used with the Smith, the second name. Using the first name of the patient is quite informal and doesn't look good, especially in the writing part. "I have sent her to you because she needs some hypertensive medication." This is informal. "I'm referring her to you for your specialist advice regarding her hypertension." That's how you write it formally, using a respectful and non-judgmental, polite language. Talking about judgmental, you have to use the right tone when you are presenting patient information. You cannot use words like, "Mr. X is a heavy smoker." This is judgmental. You are saying that he is a chain smoker. You have to use facts. "Mr. X smokes 30 cigarettes a day." And then, for example, "Mrs. Y is a binge drinker," or "Mrs. Y is an alcoholic." You cannot use that type of language. It's judging your patient. "Mrs. Y avoids drinking in the week, but drinks 15 units of alcohol on an average weekend." These are facts about her. Miss Z does not exercise enough. Miss Z admits she is only physically active once every 3 months. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. You should never sound judgmental in your letter. That's how you control your tone. Another very important tone here, important point about tone I would like to mention here is the urgency of the situation. When you are talking about a very urgent situation, for example, if you have a patient with bowel obstruction and you are sending him for an urgent assessment in an emergency department, you have to sound urgent from the start as well. Like, "I need urgent assessment of this patient," or "I need urgent specialist advice," etc. Okay, so how to use proper grammar to make your letter more formal. These are the two things you have to avoid: the contractions and the abbreviations. The contractions are using the apostrophe S. "He is keen to return home." Do not use this, right? "He is keen to return home." These are very small things that can make a very big impact in your letter. Try not to use these. Actually, do not use these. "She is looking forward to holding her baby." Just write "she is," just a complete sentence. "She is looking forward to holding her baby." Now, about the abbreviations, it's really important to take into account the reader when you are deciding when and where you should be using these abbreviations. Using NIDDM, that is non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, is appropriate when you are talking to an endocrinologist, but not for an orthopedic surgeon. And when you are using AFib for atrial fibrillation, see that it is appropriate when talking to a cardiologist, but not for a community nurse, because globally there are more than one abbreviations for AFib. So you should always keep that in mind. So we are gonna be taking that's all for from me. We're gonna be taking a break of 5 minutes, and then Zara will take over from here. I hope that everything was clear. And if you have any questions, we'll take that in the end as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Zara Taki, and I'm going to cover the layout and organization. So the fifth criteria that is I consider the most important after the language one is the layout and organization, because in this criteria, the examiners are actually covering that how you order your letter, and they are going to assess you that how your structure is, either it is easy or it's harder for the reader to understand. Okay, so it's a very important criteria. So after, just reading the case notes, if you have decided already the information you would like to include and you would like to exclude from the case notes, now is the time to decide in what order you will present the information. Okay, so I will cover that next slide. Okay, so the five criteria that we have is, for the first one is date and address. So the date and address, as you can see in the picture, here is the date and address. Firstly, I would like to cover the address one. Okay, when you're reading the writing task, firstly, always put the doctor's name on the left top corner. And then you can put, if there is written that if the doctor is rheumatologist or if he is endocrinologist, you can put his specification there. After the Dr. David Torpy, you can write if there is endocrinologist or rheumatologist. And after that, you have to put the address. So here you can see that I have written the address, and also after that I have written the date. So the date, the position of the date can be either above the address or below the address. It is normal to leave a blank line space between the date and address, because it will look more formal letter. Okay. So sometimes candidates have this difficulty, they sometimes start to panic that they have written the wrong date. That I would like to cover here is that if you make a mistake in the test and write a different date or use a number that not two words, just do not panic about it, because this cannot fail you. The examiners are actually looking for your understanding of letter and writing convention in English. So for them, it is more important that you are writing a date on the letter than to write the date in the correct manner, like in 9th May. If your test is on 19th May and you're writing 18th May, it's not a problem. So next up is salutation. Okay, so I have already described about the address and the date. Now salutation. Okay, I would like to tell you that use shorter for recipient name. Like you have already written Dr. David Topi, his full name in the address. Now go for the surname. Write Dear Dr. Torpy, and don't write the full name as it is clearly stated above. So this should be followed by a comma as well. So in all of this, the only punctuation you're gonna mark is this comma right after the salutation. You don't have to put any comma or any full stop in the address or right after the date. Okay, I hope this would be clear. It was simple, and you have to start it from the left corner. So the next one that I have is subject. Okay, so moving forward to a subject. The subject is a place where information such as the name and the date of birth of the patient can be included. So now, the criteria that I followed from the OAT side, they always used to write like this, that reference that we are referring to this patient, Monica Fisher, date of birth 12/4/1965. Why I used to write like this? Because this can actually save you words in the body of the letter, but be careful not to include too much of information here, because this is going to cost you a lot of words, and you have to save the words for the body of the paragraph. Also, one more thing, always use the proper punctuation here also. If you're referring someone, like if it's Monica Fisher or any other name, Elizabeth Fisher, you have to put a comma after the name, and then you have to write the date of birth if it is given in the case notes, like I have written here. Okay, so the next one is contents. Okay, So Zarmeen has already explained a lot about the content, what is exactly the purpose of the letter and what is the content of the letter, that why exactly you're writing this letter. So I'm gonna just brief you a little about it. So content is actually, it's a background information you're giving to the reader, such as name, age, and occupation. And also you're telling him that this is the summary of the chief complaint, and this is the purpose of the writing that I am concerned about. It should be only 1 or 2 sentences long, and it should be a detailed information, but in a concise form, of the patient history and the chief complaint that he is having. And all the other history and the detailing of his chief complaint will be covered in the body paragraphs. So you can write like, I'm referring Mrs. Fisher, put a comma here, because you are talking about one thing and now you're going to tell about the patient. So, just to give a space, make it easy for the reader to read it, because it is actually our goal to actually make the letter very clear and easier for the reader to read it. So I'm referring Mrs. Fisher, or you can write, I'm going to update you about Mrs. Fisher, or thank you for seeing Mrs. Fisher, and you're going to write a comma, and then you're going to follow with the chief complaint, that is, who is suffering from Cushing syndrome, comma, for assessment and ongoing management. This could be written in so many other ways that I'll be covering in the next slides. Okay, so next I'm going to cover about that how to write the different introductory paragraphs. So it's always candidates always have this problem that how would we identify that if it is a referral letter, of it is a discharge letter, and if it come in the exam, how we're gonna write it. Okay, I'll make it easy as possible. So firstly, just a little intro that I told you that you have to write about the purpose, content, and the chief complaint. But first, let's see that how many different type of letter comes in the exam, because intro paragraph will change for each one of them. Firstly, I'm going to cover as referral letter. Okay, next up. And the next one would be discharge to a GP. And then would be requesting an urgent assessment. Maybe some patient is in acute asthmatic attack, maybe patient have some adrenal crisis, you will be requesting an urgent assessment. The next step is two associated condition on referral. Like patient is having some conditions simultaneously at one point, like patients having bipolar disorder and also having a psychotic depression. And the last one would be discharge referral to another doctor. So starting up with the referral letters. So referral letters are most common ones, and they are the most easiest ones as well. So there are three different ways how you can start a referral letter and how you can write its introductory paragraph, in which we'll cover the content, the purpose, the chief complaint, and why we are writing this letter. Okay, so you can start with thank you for seeing Mr. Jones. You can start with I'm writing to refer Mr. Jones. You can start with anything like I'm going to write to refer Mr. Jones. It could be any way, but your purpose and content should be clear. Here are some example of the referral letters. Like if you are writing thank you for seeing Mr. Jones, a 40-year-old forklift driver, you have told the reader that this patient has this occupation because this occupation is relevant to the history. You have to write it. If this patient is a doctor, or maybe if this patient is some other person like a typist, you don't have to write it with the back injury. The reader need to understand that this occupation is written here because it's relevant here. So next is you will put a comma. You have given one information. Thank you for seeing Mr. Jones. You have given another information that it's his occupation, then again comma. And now you are going to give another piece of information that will cover that why you are referring him. So that would be, who wants to return to his work after a back injury? It indicates that you were treating Mr. Jones for the back injury. Thus, your assessment regarding his workplace would be highly appreciated. Now this your assessment regarding his workplace would be highly appreciated will come in, that what you want from the reader, the person you are, the recipient, what you want from the recipient. Okay, so there are some other examples, but always remember, I'm going to repeat it. Start with that you are referring the letter, you are updating the letter, you are discharging some patient, you are going to have some urgent assessment, then name of the patient with the surname, then put a comma, write the occupation if it is relevant. If it is not, just skip it, then put a comma if you have written the occupation, move forward, and then start with the chief complaint and your actually purpose of writing the letter. So there are some other examples you can read. Writing to refer Joshua, a 2 months old male infant who is presenting with constipation and some symptoms suggestive of mild dehydration. Again, your purpose, therefore your further assessment and management would be highly appreciated. Same goes with the third one. Thank you for seeing Mr. Simmer, a 60-year-old retired academic who is presenting with very painful left first toe consistent with gout. Therefore, your assessment is will be highly appreciated, or anything you can come with line you want to, because I have already told you about these 2 lines. Okay, so next up I'm going to cover is discharge letters. Okay, you're adding this you are it means that you were treating some patient and now you're going to discharge the patient to the GP, because in UK where we're going to have this stuff, because of in UK and Australia they have this system that where you go to the GP first and the GP then refers to the specialist, and if you're going back, the always specialist refer back to the GP, and GP has this responsibility to take care of the patient and monitor the patient until he again needs some sort of specialist advice. So now here I'm considering myself as specialist. So if I'm discharging some patient, I'm going to write, I'm writing to update you regarding Mrs. Garcia, who was referred with suspected meningitis. Most probably the GP has referred Mrs. Garcia to you for the meningitis. Now she has been treated for it, and now you are sending back to her the GP, and he will monitor her situation. So your next line would be, your further follow-up would be highly appreciated as her diagnosis is now confirmed. Okay, so this whole thing covers, like your content is clear that I'm writing to update you regarding who, regarding the patient you were treating for the meningitis. You're discharging to GP. You can also write it like this: I'm writing to discharge Ms. Garcia, who was referred by you with suspected meningitis. Your further follow-up would be highly appreciated as her diagnosis is now confirmed. Okay, but the your all the introductory content should be clear. You can change the language as you want, but be clear about it. The second one would be, I am writing to update you regarding Miss Johnson, who is being discharged today after a total knee replacement surgery. Thus your follow-up would be appreciated. Okay, you can write, I'm writing to send Mrs. Johnson to you, who was admitted here for the total knee replacement surgery. You can change the sentence, but content should be clear. So next up would be requesting an urgent assessment. Okay, so urgent assessment could be like anything that is Graves' disease, an adrenal crisis, and acute asthma exacerbations. So here, what would you do? I'm writing to request an urgent review of Miss Duval. Okay, your purpose is clear. Who is a 24-year-old lady who has demonstrated features suggestive of hypothyroidism. Okay, she had some symptom that your maybe GP or any a person who is seeing her right now has concluded that they are suggestive of hypothyroidism, so she needs an urgent assessment right now. Okay, so that's why he's writing like this. You have a clear content here that I am going to request an urgent review. Clear content. Who is the patient? 24-year-old lady. And why you are writing this? Because he has demonstrated features suggestive of hypothyroidism, most likely Graves' disease. Okay. Then again, thank you for seeing Mr. XXX, who is having an acute exacerbation of asthma and pneumonia. Thus, your urgent management is highly required. Okay, these are different ways of writing an urgent assessment. You can pick up any way and you can write in your letter, and you can also intermingle the ways and you can make up your own. It's all upon you. So next up would be to associated condition or referral. It is just same like the referral letter. Only the thing you will add here is that the patient has two conditions now. Like I'm going to refer Mr. XXX, whose symptoms are suggestive of severe depression and possible bipolar disorder. Yep. You can say like, thank you for seeing Mr. XXX, whose symptoms are suggestive of severe depression and possible bipolar disorder. And just your assessment would be highly appreciated. It will go like this. So last one that I have is discharge referral to another doctor. So it's the same. It's like a subtype of referral letters, but it's also here you are discharging it. Like I am in a specialist care, I'm treating a patient and I'm going to send a patient to another doctor because he has some other comorbid as well, which needs some assessment. So I'm going to write, I'm writing to update you regarding Mr. XXX, who has been diagnosed with just say depression, and he is being discharged today. Your follow-up would be highly appreciated. Okay. You can write like, thank you for seeing Mr. XXL, who is being discharged today, and your follow-up would be highly appreciated. Now we'll write the history paragraph. I'm sorry for any inconvenience. I think it's some net problem. Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. So next is, so how it would be a little difficult when you have to identify from the case notes.
I think there is some problem with Zara's net. Give us a minute, maybe 5 minutes to figure this out, and we'll get back to you. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay, so we are back with the identification of the letters from the case notes. Okay, I'm going to read this writing task, and then you can identify that what type of letter you're going to write it. Using the information in the case notes, write a letter of referral for further assessment and management of this patient to the endocrinologist, Dr. David Torpy. So it is evident from here that you're going to write a referral letter. Sometimes it's very easy, it's pretty easy, it comes like this, and referral letters are the one who are, which is like most common and come most of the time in the exams. So it will be easy for you to detect like this. And next up is that another example. So here are the case notes, and the task is using the information in the case notes, write a letter to Dr. Karen, general practitioner, health clinic coordinator, medicine 57 Beckley Square, London, UK, for diet and medicine management of this patient at her home. Okay, so from this task, this is not clear that if you're going to write a updating letter, if you're going to write a referral letter, so you will have to read the case notes for it. And if you read the case notes, that will you will actually know that actually you are writing this letter to the GP as a discharge letter, that you are sending her back, and now you want her monitoring by the GP. Okay, so it can come like this. Always read the case notes and the writing task properly, and you will easily detect what sort of letter you are going to write. So next up is how to write the history paragraph. We are done with the date and address, and we are done with salutation and reference, and now we're going to the history paragraph. Okay, next. Okay. So you can see in this slide that after the content that I've explained you earlier, the purpose paragraph, the first paragraph, there is a paragraph in the slide back one. That means there is slide after the content paragraph. Okay. So this after I'm referring, there is another paragraph of 2-3 lines that is actually a history paragraph. So history paragraphs comprises of any past medical or surgical, family or social history that is specifically relevant to the diagnosis being formed at the end of the case notes. This thing is very important to note. For example, if you are referring a patient with uncontrolled asthma, you will not put that her grandmother died of heart attack, or she had some road traffic accident for like last 2 years, or in past 2 years back. Both of these history have no relation with the current diagnosis, that is asthma. So that is irrelevant, and it can cost you marks in the letter. So next, I will look up to some example to make it easy how to write a history paragraph. So next up the examples. Mr. XXX, who is actually a cancer patient, is married and has 3 children. He is a smoker and he drinks alcohol frequently or occasionally. It is worth mentioning that he is allergic to pethidine, penicillin, and radioactive contrast agents. Okay. So now what you have to do here is that you have to actually extract the information from the case notes, and you have to put his history, past history, surgical, family, or anything that is relevant to the diagnosis only. The next example here is Mr. XXX has been smoking for 4 years. Regarding his medical history, he is allergic to cats and he has a history of hay fever, or he is allergic to pollens. In addition, he suffers from eczema and he was admitted into the hospital 2 times. Now here you can see that if the patient is, you're covering his history, and this patient is actually now you're talking about Mrs. Zizi, he's asthmatic. He has a history of eczema, that is relevant. He is allergic to cat, that is relevant. His sister is asthmatic because family history is really very important in asthma, so that is relevant as well. In these case notes, there was written that Mr. XX has had a femur fracture when he was 17 years old, and that is not relevant here, so you would not put it here. It would cost you marks if you will, and words as well. So next up is the body paragraphs. Okay, so here you can see in the letter, we are going forward, and after the history paragraph comes the body paragraphs. Body paragraphs depends, it could be 2, could be 3, but it depends that how much you have case notes and how much relevant case notes you have that it's according to actually the information and the words you like to put in the body paragraph. So most of the referral letters will contain 3 body paragraphs, and each of the paragraphs should have the main idea, like which the writer needs to convey to the reader. In this type of letters, all the sentences with the paragraph must relate to its main idea. Not like if you are referring some letter of asthma and in the body paragraph, you're talking about some accident that happened in the past or in detail, that he visited you for any sort of adrenal crisis, you're writing about those. You have to be very relevant in the body paragraph as well. Talk about only the information that is relevant to the case notes and the current diagnosis. Okay. So next up, I'm going to explain actually that how the body paragraph goes, okay? Like how we actually write it. So here we have that sometimes you can write it thematically, and sometimes you can write it with the chronological order. So I always prefer the chronological order because it was actually very easy for the reader to understand that, okay, this patient came to the GP or to that person who is writing the letter on this date, and after this happened, and after this happened, and now when he's actually writing the date, like on today, this is his current situation, and this is what he's expecting from me. So I'm going to read this paragraph that I've written for you guys. In some situation, clearest way the clearest way to organize the letter is around time. You start at the beginning and continue up to the present, for example, like I told you. So the reader would be endocrinologist, and you are a GP, and you are referring Mrs. Sharma for her diabetic control. So you will start with the paragraph 1, like Mrs. Sharma initially presented on, or you can go like on 29/12/18, Mrs. Sharma presented initially with, and the second paragraph will be started at pathology report received on this, anything related to it. On the third paragraph, you'll go like on 12, or you can go like today. The third paragraph will be go like what's happening right now with you and patient, in between you and patient, what's her current diagnosis, what her current situation. And the first 2 paragraphs will cover her the past any presentations related to this diagnosis. So sometimes what happened that the case notes are pretty concise, so you don't have to put up 3 paragraphs. It's not necessary. You can put only 2 paragraphs if the case notes are concise, and if the you are not making up all, because you cannot make up the information. So next word would be conclusion. So you can see the conclusion after the 2 body paragraphs. We have the conclusion, just last lines. So conclusion is actually the last few sentences when you are done with the body paragraphs. It consists of your diagnosis, your demand for the and your demand for the recipient doctor. Also here you welcome any queries if it needed to be asked. So let's look at some example in the next slide. So you will ask the doctor in the view of the above, my provisional diagnosis is asthma. Therefore, I'm referring him for your further assessment and possibly MRI imaging. Maybe you are sending her to a specialist, okay? And then you will write something like that, that any sort of queries, I welcome any sort of queries if needed to be asked. I mean, yeah, you can write up like, do not hesitate to ask me if anything you would like to understand about the patient. And you can start with the in the light of the above, and you can start with the in the view of the above. So conclusion is just the lines about your diagnosis and your actual demand for the recipient doctor. So next one is ending, the last part. Okay, so here's I have outlined it. It's yours sincerely, Dr. Zara Taki, general practitioner, or Dr. whatever you will write your name in the examination. So here's the tip. If you're referring to a doctor whose name is not given in the writing task, like in the writing task, there is a task given, write a letter to the endocrinologist in the St. Joseph Hospital, USA. Okay. So, and the name of the doctor is not given, then you will write yours faithfully with the comma. Okay, and no capital letter. All letter, there is no capital. People think that we should have to write Y in the capital and F as a capital as well, but it's not like that. You have to write it just like this. You can write yours faithfully if referring doctor name is not given. If the referring doctor name is mentioned in the writing task, then you have to write yours sincerely. That's the only thing about the ending. And I think this is it for today. And I'm going to give it back to Zarmeen, and she needs to announce something.
Okay, so we have completed today's session. I hope that everything is clear to you and this is useful to you guys. We have we have arranged this session by referring to a lot of different case notes and a lot of different information out there already. So you don't have to waste time on reading all that information and figuring out what's gonna help you and what's not gonna help you. So that's why we have started this. With this session, we are sending out, Abdullah is actually going to send you guys some case notes. I have made a list of all the case notes that I have collected when I was preparing for my OET, and I have collected some recent ones as well. And we are going to send those out to you in series. First, with this session, I'm going to share 10 case notes with you. 5 of them you may or may not already have seen. 4 of them are from OET official site, and one of them is from the book that I shared with you people on the OET introductory post I made on the Facebook group. And the rest of the 5 case notes are new. So you are welcome to write any of the 2 letters from these case notes and send them back to us, and we will check them for you free of cost with this session. And if you want to get some more letters checked, you are welcome for that as well, and we will check it for you, and we will tell you about what will be the cost for that as well. And with the case notes, Abdullah is also going to share a booklet, writing booklet for you. Try to print it out and practice the letter writing on those, so that you know in one line how many words are there. So you know how many lines to write in your letter when you are sitting in an examination. It's gonna help you figure out how many words you are writing in your letter. So we are also going to be sending you some link for our feedback survey. Kindly fill that out so we know what we need to improve. So I think that's all for today, and we can take some questions now. If you have any, write them down in the chat section. We're gonna wait 5 minutes. So the last part that we left out, the language part, which is actually almost have the same import, which actually has the same importance as the things we have discussed today. The language part, it contains the grammar and certain words that you have to use in your letter to gain good marks. We are going to have another session next week. We will put up a post on Facebook group about the date and time of that session. So I think we don't have any questions for today.
We have actually one.
Yes.
Okay, so Naira is asking that wanted to ask you about OAT test date. Is there any issue in getting the test date for OAT? So actually, right now in the pandemic situation as well, OAT are conducting their test, and also they have launched another option that is online OAT test. You can go to their site and learn about it. It's really very easy to book a test of OAT. And 2-3 tests per month are happening right now in Pakistan as well. And if they have if there would be some problem right now, it will be handled in the next 1 or 2 months. And I think there are pretty much a lot of seats available in Pakistan as well.
I think that answers the question. One thing more I would like to tell you is that when you are sending us letters to get checked, kindly, if you have handwritten them, kindly type them because it makes it much more easier for us to check and make a review on MS Word. Try not to use the grammar correction in the MS Word. Write it as it is that you have handwritten. Okay, I think
so
we are going to.
Naira is also asking that apart from letter writing, is there something else in the writing part? No, they just letter writing in the OAT, the writing part. There is nothing else.
Okay, I think we are going to conclude our session today. I hope you guys fill out the survey and hope to see you in the next session as well. Goodbye, Allah Hafiz.